leave than we might have been expecting based on its position on the board. It's not that far off the centre, Sunderland. You might have expected it to be tighter. So these results have given us something to think about. We're looking at our index, we're wondering about the order, we're thinking, wait, is Leave's vote
Absolutely
here
mad.
a lot stronger than anyone was thinking? We'll find out as the results go in, but my goodness, Newcastle and Sunderland, David, don't anyone go to bed yet.
God is with us today,
Thanks, Jeremy.
boys.
And the markets, of course, have been very sensitive over the last few days. Kamal Ahmed, our economics editor, is here.
Lead by 3,000. Jesus.
Certainly, David, there are some relatively sweaty traders out there tonight.
All right,
A lot of
say something.
strength in sterling early on tonight after the poll suggested that Remain had done very well. In the last few minutes, sterling has come down markedly off a high of $1.50 where it was its highest.
Just do some chanting, boys.
It's fallen by 3 or 4 cents since then in the last few minutes. I think traders are sitting there looking at the result in Newcastle, looking at the result in Sunderland and thinking, oh, hang on a minute, maybe those polls are a little bit too optimistic for Remain. We're in the wrong position now on sterling. Sterling would be expected to fall markedly if Britain did leave the European Union. And they're maybe on the wrong side of this trade at the moment. And there is some significant selling. What you're going to get, I think, David, over the next 2, 3, 4 hours is great volatility for sterling.
They're making a lot of money while they do all this.
Some people will be making a lot of money somewhere when you have this amount of volatility, either buying or selling.
And why, just to explain the point, why, if it is a vote for Leave in the end, will sterling fall?
Because that will be, investors will think that it could be bad for the UK economy. Most economists say that if Britain did leave the European Union, then ultimately that could be, in the short term at least, bad for the UK economy. And also investor sentiment might turn against Britain. Britain runs a current account deficit. We need, as Mark Carney described, the governor of the Bank of England, the kindness of strangers to support our debts. If those strangers start thinking, not too sure about the UK economy at the moment, particularly if it left the European Union, then that would mean that sterling would start falling.
Well, you'll go on keeping an eye on it.
I will.
And keep us. We won't be gambling along with those market traders, but we'll be hearing how their gambles are going. We just rejoined Ruth Davidson. Thank you for your patience, Ruth, leader of the Scottish Conservatives. I was asking you whether there was a worry in Scotland that the Remain camp and the people who wanted Remain may not have pulled their weight tonight because the campaign itself was rather lacklustre.
Well, in Scotland, we're looking at a turnout that's not as high as the independence referendum 20 months ago, which was 85%, which was extraordinarily high for a democratic event anywhere in the UK. But it is looking like it's running around or even above 70%, which is higher than the Scottish parliamentary elections last month, higher than the general election. So I think it's been a pretty good turnout across Scotland.
Are you disconcerted by the news that's come in so far from the two results in England that we've had?
Well, I think it's just a little bit early to tell. I mean, 5 out of 382 declared. 2 of them are in Scotland, Clackmannanshire and Orkney. 1 right in the middle of the Central Belt in that urban corridor. One of the Northern Isles. It's not enough to tell us about Scotland, and I don't think 2 seats from the northeast is really enough to tell us about all of England.
Well, they aren't seats, of course. They're numbers, aren't they? Just numbers of votes.
Local authority areas.
That's the spirit.
Sorry, I'm in an election mode. What can I say? But in those local authority areas, I don't think that's enough for us really to say. I think in terms of what I can tell you about Scotland, you will find patchiness across the country. I think in Dumfries and Galloway in the southwest and Murray in the northeast, which is a former RAF area, lots of fishing up there, you will find it very close to 50-50. You may get a surprise result in the Western Isles, which if you remember in 1975 voted to come out, voted against. The rest of the country, places like my constituency in Edinburgh, you're seeing votes that look as if it's going to come out about 3-1. It looks as if it could be more than 70% for it. So it's going to be a very mixed picture across Scotland this evening.
Just a word about the Conservative Party. Do you see the Conservative Party as something in Scotland, as something very separate from Westminster? If the Conservative Party in Westminster goes into turmoil, they only got 1 MP from north of the border. If it goes into turmoil over this, would you distance the Scottish Conservative Party and say, well, look, we're really involved in politics in Scotland, and you can have chaos in the south if you want, but we will go our own way and work out our own policies and our own election stance?
Well, I fought my leadership election to become leader of the party in Scotland on a platform of keeping our party together. And while we're devolved in Scotland and I have responsibility for candidates and policy in lots of other areas, it is to be a part of the UK Conservative Party and we'll continue with that. But I don't accept the premise of your question, David, because we as a party know we have much more that keeps us together than that divides us. And it has been a passionate debate. But remember, just a year ago, my colleagues in London were elected on a manifesto to govern, a manifesto that would have a referendum on the European Union. We've carried out that, and that we would respect the result, whichever it is, and it's far too early to tell so far this evening. And then after that, we would all, as Democrats, respect the will of the people of this country, come back together and govern to the manifesto on which we were elected.
But judging by what you said on Wembley Arena, you don't have much respect for Boris Johnson, and it's unlikely that... What?
I don't think you could take that from my performance at Wembley Arena at all. You know, there was absolutely no personal invective there. It was a really passionate debate on the issues, and they've been proper, good, hearty issues to talk about. The economy, immigration, security, this country's place in the world.
But pointing at him, you've lied about Europe, you've lied about Turkey, you've lied about the European army. It's not good enough. Not Boris Johnson. No,
that's what I said. The campaign. I pointed directly to the leaflet that was there. So the campaign had absolutely made, I think, contestable claims, and I think that when all of the dust settles, that we should be able to look at a passionate campaign that was carried out in a way to bring those arguments to the people of the country, but then come back together as a party and
Switch
govern
into
to the
headphones.
manifesto to which